Greetings, friends. Today, I'm going to tell you about Antoine, a quintessential Parisian, raised on the romance of small specialty shops, fresh baguettes from a bakery in the Latin Quarter, and morning trips to the farmer's market. He genuinely believed this system was the pinnacle of civilization. And so, this connoisseur of the old world, confident in Europe's cultural superiority, flies into the very heart of Texas, Houston. Deciding to make dinner, he looks for a grocery store and, following his GPS, arrives at a gigantic Walmart supercenter, a building the size of an airport terminal. He walks inside, and his world, built on the charm of cozy Parisian streets, shatters in an instant. This isn't just a story about different stores. It's a harsh collision of two life philosophies. A story about how the American system, so often criticized in Europe for its gigantism, actually gives a person the most valuable thing, freedom. And what Antoine will come to understand in the endless aisles of this Texan temple of consumption will make you see everyday things in a whole new light. Be sure to watch until the end. The finale of this story changes everything. Antoine's mind was filled with idyllic images that he considered the gold standard of a proper life. There he is in Florence, stepping into a tiny family-run shop, a macelleria, where a charismatic butcher slices him the perfect piece of prosciutto while chatting about the weather and soccer. There he is in his native Paris, standing in a short line at a bakery on Rue Malfatard, where the aroma of fresh pastries is intoxicating, buying one, absolutely perfect, crispy baguette for the evening. And on weekends, the mandatory ritual, a trip to the Saint-Germain market, where you can touch every tomato, haggle with a Moroccan vendor over a bunch of mint, and feel like a part of something real, something non-industrial. This system seemed to him the height of elegance. But behind this beautiful facade hid a harsh truth. To gather the ingredients for a single dinner in Paris, you had to spend half a day visiting 3 or even 4 different places. It was photogenic, charming, and as he was only now beginning to realize in Texas, monstrously inefficient. This world of small shops that he had so romanticized was actually holding him hostage, stealing his most precious resource every single day, his time. The automatic doors of that Walmart supercenter, somewhere off I-10 near Houston, slid open silently, ushering Antoine into another world. The first thing that struck his European consciousness was the scale. Scale in everything. The parking lot could have swallowed several blocks of his native Paris. The shopping cart he grabbed at the entrance felt like an industrial piece of equipment, capable of hauling a small Fiat. And inside, there were no familiar walls. It was an endless, brightly lit space, where shelves reached for the ceiling, disappearing somewhere overhead, and stretched all the way to the horizon. He went looking for the meat department and, instead of a small counter, stumbled upon an entire street, chilled to the perfect temperature, where hundreds of types of steaks, including the famous Texas brisket, ground meat, sausages, and poultry, lay behind glass. He looked for bread and found a district, a whole city of bread, featuring every imaginable and unimaginable variety. This wasn't just breadth of choice. This was a ruthless demonstration of power. The power of the American system, of its logistics and production, created for one purpose: to satisfy any consumer whim. Instantly, without compromise. At first, Antoine felt bewildered. This giant, humming beehive seemed cold and soulless. Where was the personal connection? Where was the soul? But as he wandered between these gigantic aisles, he began to notice a different, deeper logic. He saw Texan families moving through the store with a businesslike focus. They weren't just browsing, they were on a mission. In their enormous carts, next to the milk and cereal, were children's sneakers, motor oil for the Ford F-150 pickup truck waiting in the parking lot, and a pack of light bulbs. And then it hit him. The American hypermarket isn't about soulful chats with the shopkeeper. It's about freedom, about liberation from domestic slavery. In one trip, spending a couple of hours on a Saturday, a person could take care of absolutely all their household needs for the week. They performed one concentrated blitz and, in return, got back dozens of free hours. Hours for life, for family, for hobbies, for what Americans call the pursuit of happiness. And suddenly, the charm of the European shopping ritual seemed like a beautiful, but very cramped cage. But the final epiphany, the real culture shock, awaited him in the most unexpected place. After passing rows of clothing, furniture, and electronics, he stumbled upon the outdoor recreation section. And he froze. There on the shelves, in perfect order, was professional gear for fishing in the Gulf of Mexico or for hunting in the forests of East Texas. The very same reels, rods, lures, and camp stoves that, in his native France, are considered highly specialized items that you'd have to order online, wait weeks for, and pay a fortune. Here, they were just sitting on a shelf, next to the canned beans and toilet paper. And in that moment, the whole picture came together. This store wasn't just a place to buy food. It was the materialized American idea of accessibility. The idea that any hobby you have, any passion, is important, and the system is ready to provide you with the tools to pursue it. You want to be a pastry chef? Here's a whole aisle with professional baking pans. You're into cars? Here are shelves of every chemical and accessory. And it was all under one roof. This was a manifestation of the deepest respect for the individual and their right to self-fulfillment. When Antoine got back to his temporary apartment in Houston and began to unpack his groceries, he looked at them with completely different eyes. Next to a perfect ribeye steak lay a new power drill. Beside the organic lettuce was a set of high-quality fishing lines. He had spent 2 hours of his time, but bought himself an entire week of freedom. The old-world model, whether it's France or Italy, with its cult of tradition and small shops, is certainly beautiful. But it's the beauty of the past, the beauty of a world that's in no hurry. The American model, with its seemingly intimidating hypermarkets, is a model of efficiency and freedom. It's a system that values a person's time more than beautiful rituals. Antoine suddenly realized that the true soul of a culture isn't in the daily small talk with the baker, but in having the freedom and time to build something in your backyard if you feel like it. Especially here in Houston, where dreams of space are literally in the air. This system is so effective that many Americans take it for granted. But perhaps it takes an outsider's perspective to understand the revolutionary idea of freedom that stands behind a simple trip to the store. But what do you think? Is the American hypermarket a symbol of freedom and efficiency, or has something important been lost in the pursuit of convenience? Share your opinion in the comments, because this is a really interesting topic. And, of course, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you don't miss new stories that show America from the most unexpected angles.